Good early afternoon. We are live. I'm Andy Andrews. You joined us on the Blue Plate special here in beautiful downtown Orange Beach, Alabama. We're in the skyscraper, the Orange Beach skyscraper. We're in the highest place in Orange Beach, the second floor of the wharf. And we got a good show for you today. I just came back in last night. Dave, good afternoon from Minnesota. And Dina Kilpatrick, hey to everybody. You shared, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I just came back in last night. Polly and I were at the, what's the name of the place? The Greenbrier in West Virginia. And Heather Olson, have you ever been to the Greenbrier? It's been around since 1778. And this is like, the place doesn't have antiques. It is an antique. I mean, you have a lot of memorabilia. You have a lot of memorabilia when they have original letters from presidents of the United States framed above urinals in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
You just got nowhere else to put anything, Nancy Bergen, good morning from Monte Vista, Colorado. Fall leaves. Yeah, we were hoping we would be there for the leaves, but I think we're like 10 days early. They're just starting to turn. Monica Early, hey. Our Wisdom Harbor Protocol Officer. Terry Lundy, hey, from Colorado. Ike Weaver from Oklahoma. Glad to have you guys here. We have people in the studio audience today from Georgia, Missouri, and Maryland. Is that right? I think good. Well, we're glad to have you guys all here. Yvonne Palmer, hey, how are you doing? Tammy Nance from sunny Greenville, South Carolina. Tammy, I thought about you and John when we were up at the Greenbrier, because the Shenandoah Valley and all that. Matt Wilson, hey, man, that is a happy daddy. Am I allowed to announce what your great news is? Am I allowed to announce that? You just let us know. Christy Woods, hey. How you doing, Christy? This is my sister there. I have to say that the Greenbrier has some of the most expensive food that I've ever eaten in my life. I didn't necessarily say it was the best food. Michelle Falco from Florida, Terry Welch, Heather Olson, you've shared the books. A lot of your friends, and he asked, when is Andy going to come to Utah and give a seminar or something? Well, Heather, I mean, people ask me that like it's up to me. Like, I like the Chicago Bears. I think I'll go do a speech for them. That ain't how it works. I mean, you guys asked me, and I'll be there. Okay, so let me tell you Matt Wilson's great news. Matt and Becca's daughter, Daigle, is going into her junior year at Orange Beach High School. Now she is on this unbelievable state championship fast pitch softball team, and they're 3 times in a row state champions, and so on September 1st is the first moment that college programs can call a high school that is going into the junior year. Okay, so now understand, Daigle has 2 more years of high school ball. And so September 1st is the first day they can call prospects. And so you think, okay, maybe somebody would call, like, are they going to call at 8 in the morning, or are they going to call before everybody gets going or whatever? Leslie Ann Tarabella, hey, you're in Ireland? Wow. You with your red hair, though, you're fitting right at home, aren't you? So you would think they're going to call, 8 or 9 o'clock or whatever. At 12:01, coaches started calling her. And she was on the phone all night long. I mean, it was Alabama, Boston College, Florida State, Kentucky, Princeton, Dartmouth. I mean, all over the country calling her. And this girl has 2 more years to play, but she has already, she's unbelievable. And so she went on a couple of trips with her parents, and they went to Auburn a couple of weekends ago. And Auburn told her that they had 3 scholarships they were offering for her graduating year. That they had 3 they were going to offer, and she was first choice, and they would offer her now. And so she's already signed a scholarship. She's signed with Auburn. I mean, I think it's awesome. It's just incredible for that whole family. And Matt and Becca are just awesome parents, and I just love them to death. And then Chandler's working on a college scholarship in football, so that's going to happen too. Very athletic family. How did you guys get to be athletic and good looking, Matt, Becca? That's not really that fair, I don't think. I mean, you could be athletic and make millions of dollars and still be ugly, but your whole family's beautiful. All right, we have something to get going on. We're going to talk today. Now, when I was at the Greenbrier, wandering around at night among the ghosts, I mean, you just can't help but think of ghosts when you walk around that whole place. Ghosts and bad interior decorators. I mean, it's like that place is like somebody threw a grenade in a Crayola factory. It's like there's just like crazy colors everywhere. Melanie Martin Interiors over here. Melanie is a good friend of ours, and we would take videos and we'd say, we need to get you some lessons. Melanie, you're not doing good stuff like this. It's like, golly. Okay, so as I'm wandering around, walking, Polly and I are seeing stuff, I'm thinking, we have a lot of conversations, and so we're thinking deeply. And you can think deeply in ways that, in fact, I don't know that you can think deeply and not improve the quality of your life, because you can think deeply to answers. You can think deeply to solutions to stuff that's been going on for a long time. You can think deeply to calm. You can think deeply to laughter. And so I'll show you an example, because I was just jotting some things down. So I'll give you an example of all of this. Here's an example of thinking deeply to laughter, I guess. I think that the human version of, did you turn it off and turn it back on? I think the human version of that is, go to bed, you'll feel better in the morning. That's the human version of, turn it off, turn it back on. Just go to bed, feel better in the morning. Here's a thought I had. As kids, our parents taught us not to believe everything that we see on TV. Now, our parents, we're having to teach them not to believe everything they read on Facebook. Now, here is a little one that I shouldn't say a little one. Tall people are just expected to use their reach to help shorter people, right? I mean, if you're in the kitchen and somebody's real tall and somebody's real short and need someone, could you come reach this for me? Tall people are expected to use their height to help shorter people. But if a tall person were to ask a short person to hand them something they dropped on the floor, somebody'd be mad. Hey, could you pick that up for me? You're so much closer to it than I am.
As a tall person, Andy, I've actually done that at the grocery store where when someone's asked me to get something off the top shelf, I'll look around and I'll be like, "Can you grab me that?" And then there's something on the bottom shelf.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. Now here is something that Polly and I were talking about because we saw an eagle fly over, and she told me that a friend of ours found an eagle feather and had an eagle feather. I said, "Well, for God's sake, tell her don't show it to anybody." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Because an eagle feather, finding an eagle feather, that is just like, that's so much trouble. Just picking one up. If you have an eagle feather in your possession, I don't care if an eagle dropped it, I don't care what it came from. You have an eagle feather in your possession, it can result in a fine of $100,000, imprisonment for a year, or both for a first offense." That's first offense. And the penalties increase substantially for additional offenses, and a second violation of this act is a felony. We're talking prison, okay? All right, so now get this. For even disturbing an eagle's egg is punishable by a year in prison. In prison, not in jail, in prison. Now, in Florida, right here, in Florida, destroying or messing with sea turtle eggs, that'll get you prison time. And here's what I want to ask you. This is the deep thinking part. Why is disturbing an eagle egg a felony? Now, what is the thinking behind that? Well, the thinking behind it is that the bald eagle is America's national bird. That's our national symbol. Okay, so why can't you disturb an egg? It's because the thinking is that egg is an eagle. That inside part of that egg that's an eagle. And messing with it, they'll send you to prison. Sea turtles are endangered. And so, why can't you mess with an egg? Because they have determined that egg is a turtle. So in some states, it's perfectly legal to abort a human child up until the 24th week. And by that time, the baby has had a detectable heartbeat and brain activity for more than 4 months. It has its own unique set of fingerprints and is considered viable outside the womb. How do you consider an egg an eagle, but what's inside a pregnant woman is not a human. So, I mean, hey, I'm not coming to any conclusions. I'm just saying. Got to be one or the other, don't it? Anyway, some deep thinking. Here's some deep thinking. I've often, you know how you see somebody, you run across people sometimes, you think that is a useless piece of humanity. That is just, that's what my grandmama used to call sorry. He's just sorry. I mean, that's the worst thing my grandmother could say about somebody. If you were sorry, you might as well just go jump off a cliff. Just leave town. You're just so sorry. Polly's daddy said about somebody one time said he's too lazy to fish. That's just sorry, And so I have had this little private thing that I have called sorry people, and I guess only my family knows about this until now. But I have had this like private word for sorry people. I call them botanist. Yeah, he's just a botanist, which means to me that how people say that plants are put on earth to take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. And there are some people that I can't see any more value in their life than breathing out carbon dioxide for plants. And so if everybody has a purpose, maybe that's their purpose. It's just like you have been put on earth to provide carbon dioxide. That's the only thing you're doing, And so that led me to think this. We always think we're farming plants. What if plants are really farming us? What if plants are giving us oxygen so that we will produce carbon dioxide for them, and that we will eventually die, be put into the ground, and turn into mulch, which they can consume? Sound like plants have something going on here. I think maybe they're farming us. We're thinking, they're good for providing oxygen. They're just giving us oxygen so that we can give them carbon dioxide and then fertilize them. Okay, here's another thought. Tell me why it is. I saw this on somebody's mantle the other day and turned around, and on their TV screen, they were the news was showing a bank robbery. Okay, now what I saw on their mantle was a family picture from Disney World or Universal or Six Flags or something, and it's the family going down a roller coaster. Okay, so tell me, how can these theme parks, how can they snap a crystal clear picture of you on a roller coaster going 70 miles an hour, but bank cameras can't get a clear shot of a robber standing still? I mean, it's like the fuzziest. Now here's a thought. Have you ever thought the only people in life that want you to do great were crooks? Because lawyers, they hope you get sued, or they hope you get hurt so you can sue somebody. Doctors, I mean, they don't make you money unless you're sick, so doctors hope you get sick. Cops, there got to be some criminals for them to make a living. Mechanics hope you have car trouble. You ever wonder, like a funeral home director? I mean, somewhere along the line, there's funeral homes that they're experiencing a recession. You know, I mean, there's somebody that he needs some money, right? I mean, and so how do they pray? Lord, you know the shape our business is in right now, and Lord, if you could kill some people so that we could do their funerals, that would be. I mean, I don't know. How do funeral directors pray? You know, Lord, we need some dead people here. We got to have some dead people. We need some money coming in this place. Lord, you established this business. Now we need some people to die. but so think about that. The attorneys, they want you to sue or want you to be sued. The doctors want you sick. Cops got to have some criminals. Mechanics hope you have car trouble. But only a crook hopes you are rich. I mean, a thief walking down the street looking at everybody, who has the most money? I hope he has a lot of money. Going into a house, they hope you got gold bullion. Billy Roberts Paget said, my brain must be so tired. I don't know. How about this? Have you ever noticed that when you say the word forward or you say the word back, your lips move in those directions? Try it. Forward, back. Anybody else notice that? Okay. Somebody asked me, in fact it was Austin, asked me what was the greatest advice I have ever gotten. And it was Jones. It was the noticer that told me this. And it was such great advice, it went over my head for a long time, but it was so odd, I kept unpacking it. And here's the advice. The advice was, you can't believe everything you think. Now, I unpacked that for years, and here's what, and now I use that every day. You can't believe everything you think. I use it with my clients on creatingmeasurableresults.com. And here's the best way I can explain what that means. Have you ever known something? I mean, you knew it, and you could argue it, and you could win the argument every time. And then you found out 6 months later, a year later, ooh, that was not exactly correct. You ever done that? Okay. If you've ever done that, does the possibility exist that something you know now, your information might be incorrect or could be incomplete? And you would say, well, Andy, of course, something I know now, my information might be incorrect. Okay, I agree. But the point is, we don't really know what that is, do we? And we don't know how many subjects that may cover. See, everybody wants to achieve to their potential. Everybody's aware that they have a potential in their life and they want to fulfill that potential. We want our children to achieve to our potential. But there is and this is thinking deeply, I've come to the conclusion that there is a misunderstood piece of that puzzle. A misunderstood piece of the puzzle, people wanting to achieve or how they achieve to their potential. Because most people believe that the biggest danger to achieving their potential is something that they don't know. You know, it's like, I'm missing something. There's something missing here. If I could just figure out what I'm missing. But I am very sure that the biggest danger to achieving to your potential is not something you don't know. Because when you don't know something, you keep looking. You keep reading. You keep searching. You keep asking questions. You keep listening. And so the biggest danger to achieving your potential is not something you don't know. The biggest danger to achieving to your potential is what you know for sure. Because when you know something for sure, you quit digging. You move somewhere else. You already know that. And so I'm not going to read about that, not going to think about that. Now, that knowing for sure, and this is something that just came to me today. And I'll tell you, I pray for this stuff, because for a long time I prayed, God, help me understand things you want your people to understand. That if they did understand, they would live the lives you want them to live. And give me simple ways to explain complicated things that are confusing people. So curiously, things that you know for sure is an example of the opposite of wisdom. That's demonstrating the opposite of wisdom. And here's where I'm getting that. A definition of wisdom is a deeper understanding of principle. Okay, so principles work every time. Principle of gravity worked every time. But there's a deeper understanding that has been gained through the decades. And so a definition of wisdom is a deeper understanding of principle. Now, you'll notice that the definition is not a deep understanding of principle, because a deep understanding of principle would be a target. That would be a target you could hit. Hey, okay, I'm here. I have a deep understanding of principle. I'm wise. I have a deep understanding of principle. But that isn't the definition. The definition of wisdom is a deeper understanding of principle. So when you get to a deeper understanding of principle, where do you go from there? Deeper, I guess. And so when you know something for sure, maybe there you have a deep understanding of principle. You know it for sure. You have that deep understanding of principle. Don't need to think about that anymore. Don't need to go anymore. So that's the opposite of wisdom, which is a deeper understanding of principle. Going, yeah, I don't know everything I need to know about this. Yeah, there's more. Have you ever known, known something and everything went fine with it? And then you found out something else you could do and like, wow, I never even knew that. Well, maybe found it quicker if we'd looked. Here's an example of just crazy deep thinking. Tobacco companies kill their best customers, and condom companies kill their future customers. Have you ever had a company, phone companies do this, cable companies do this, satellite companies do this. You ever canceled your service and then had them come back and offer you a better price? When a company offers me a better price after I cancel their subscription, isn't that just them admitting they were overcharging me? And it drives me crazy to be paying a price and seeing them giving a way under price to new people. New people, I've been a loyal customer for years. And you're charging me more than the guy off the street. Anyway, I think, Christmas, Thanksgiving coming up, this is just something to keep in mind. Christmas is a holiday. And you know that you got it wrong when Christmas feels more like a deadline than a holiday. When it feels like a deadline, time to back up. Here's something that I thought that I saw this past weekend and I just thought was odd. And I jotted down some notes. And this is not particularly optimistic, but it is something I see happening and something maybe we can, a society's decline or ascent is totally dependent upon a society's thinking. It is our thinking. A lot of people will say, well, your choices determine where you're going to end up. I mean, how many speakers and books have we heard say your choices determine your destiny? If you want to do something good with your kids, make sure they make good choices. So we take that into kids. We say, make good choices, make good choices, make good choices. And then when we get a letter from the teacher, we go, was that a good choice? That wasn't a good choice. What did I talk to you about making good choices? Now go outside and play and make good choices. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any understanding from adults about how good choices are made. It's just like telling a kid to go outside and flip heads every time. Well, until we understand how to flip heads every time, how would we ever expect a kid to even have a chance at it? And so just saying, make good choices, we're just telling them to flip a coin because we don't seem to be gaining any understanding about how choices are made. Now, the fact that choices determine our destiny, that is true. It's not the truth. Okay, things can be true and not be the truth. And so choices determining our destiny is true, which is probably why so many people say it. It's true. But it's a great example also of believing everything you think. That sounds good. That's true. Okay. Choices determine destiny. I mean, you've heard speakers, preachers, how many times have we heard this said? And yet, we know it's true because choices, what does it choose? A choice chooses an action. Then that action yields a result, a good result or a bad result. Those results over time become who we are. Those results over time become our reputation. That becomes our culture. That's who we are. That's our reputation. That's how we think. And so that in that way, a choice does create a destiny. Choice creates the culture. Choice, and yet there is something below that that makes the whole thing clear. And that is that foundation of that whole building there is the thinking. It's our thinking. That's the foundation of where we end up, our thinking. And if you ever doubt that, you got to remember that every choice you've ever made in your life, every choice you will ever make in your life is totally determined by what you think and how you think and how long you think about it and what you decide you don't need to be thinking about it so it doesn't distract you from thinking about what you got to think about so you can decide. It's our thinking. It's our thinking. Now, this has great news attached. Our thinking creates our choices. Our choices choose an action. Action yields results, and the results over time become who we are, become our destiny, become how we're able to live. And so it's our thinking that determines our destiny. Now, here's the good news about this. While thinking determines our choices, you can choose how you think. This is so important for children to understand. And it takes a long time of explaining this in different ways and having conversations about this for children to totally get it, or for anybody to totally get it. But when you say our thinking determines our choices, but we can choose how we think. Well, how do you choose how you think? Okay, here's how this works. If you consider the ways your mind is directed. Have you ever been thinking something you didn't want to think? You ever been thinking something you go, I wish I could get that out of my mind? Yeah, we all have. Okay, so consider the ways that your mind is directed toward good things or bad things. It generally has 4 keystrokes that direct our mind. 1 is the people we're around. 2 is what we watch. 3 is what we read, and 4 is what we listen to, what we hear. Okay, so what we hear, what we see, what we experience. Okay, so you can choose how you think because you can choose what you watch. You can choose how you think because you can choose what you listen to. You can choose what you read. You can choose the people with whom you're around. Now, maybe even more important to the process, you can choose what you will not watch. You can choose what you will not listen to. You can choose what you will not read. You can choose what you will, the people you will not be around. And in those ways, we choose our thoughts. Have you ever watched a movie that you thought, I wish I'd never seen that? That's some part of that or something that keeps playing back in your mind. You're going, this is doing me no good. So anyway, it is our thinking. And here's what I was going after, and again, I'm not after anything here. I'm just curious about a decline of society, the ascent of society, how it happens, with wisdomharbor.com, which, by the way, if you're not a member, please join. It's only $27 for the year. Our stated goal is to create the next greatest generation, starting with your school, your hometown. And so we need this to get moving through you. We need your words of affirmation. We need your word of mouth. And so there's a lot of thought to what, why did for 150 years America's character rise to a level where we look at that greatest generation and say, well, that's the best we ever were. And then for 80 years after it, decline. I mean, there's a reason for that. And there's a reason for that. And, we ain't got hours to go into it today, but we have done this thinking, done this research, and wisdomharbor.com, we believe, is the answer. And we've got some schools that are just absolutely turning around. And I'll explain, maybe on another blue plate, I'll explain what we found about the greatest generation and how that really happened and how we're recreating what really happened. But this is just, again, I saw that senator from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman. I just saw a news clip of him moseying through the Capitol building in shorts and a hoodie. I mean, I looked at that and I was like, oh, it's that guy. I mean, this guy is evidently a folk hero to some people. And then to protect him, his buddy or counterpart, Chuck Schumer, unilaterally changed the Senate's dress code. It has been coat and tie since Washington and Jefferson and Adams, I mean, because this one guy was determined to dress this way and act this way, instead of taking the bad apple out of the pile, somebody said, no, we can still sell this bad apple. We're just, they can all be bad. It can all be bad. So now everybody in the Senate can also be a slob. Now here's some thoughts. Somebody might argue that a person should be free to dress however he wants to dress when he goes to work, whether his job is at Walmart or a U.S. senator. Can't that same kind of argument be made for just about anything? Anybody should be able to do whatever they want to do. It's a free country. It's freedom. I mean, what about open borders? I mean, after all, if a person's truly free, if we want people to be free, shouldn't they be allowed to live wherever they choose without having to get permission from anybody? See, what the overarching argument gets down to is total freedom versus societal order. Now, I read an article by Robert Ringer who gave me he put a lot of these thoughts in my head. And I've been contemplating this, but it's personal freedom versus societal order. To some people, the foundational principle of human existence is the belief that every individual owns his own life and therefore possesses this inherent right to do whatever they please with that life as long as it doesn't interfere with the rights of other people. In real life, it's hard to argue with this foundational theory, but life is not a theory. Life is reality. And in real life, there are millions of angry troublemakers saturating our towns and cities. These are people who do not agree with that foundational theory because they want to be free, not only to do what they want to do, they want to be free to curb the freedom of other people. And so the only way to maintain a civilized society is to have rules and laws in place that are backed up with a strong system of enforcement. Now, until fairly recently on our life calendar, the United States, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, just to mention 5, were pretty good at having rules and laws in place that were backed up with a strong system of enforcement. But it seems to me that democracy's biggest flaw is that democracies tend to destroy themselves through an excess of democracy. And so this excess of democracy is causing our democracy to come apart at the seams, and it's accelerating. No area of daily life is off limits. And as a result, the world you and I grew up in, it no longer exists. I mean, surely you're seeing some of the news things as much as they're I mean, I cannot believe this is not leading the news every night, but you have to go on the internet to see this stuff. The smash and grab robberies that are being perpetrated a lot on the West Coast, but in New York too, by these gangs of 20, 30, even 50 thugs at a time that'll go in a store and just stare at everybody and just grab all the stuff and just walk right out. I mean, there's like murder and rape on public transportation. When a Marine stepped in to stop one such occurrence, it was the Marine that's now been arrested for assaulting the guy who was assaulting people. I mean, this guy's life is ruined. There was a guy threatening, and he stepped in and held him to a police station. Well, the guy choked. He died. But the guy had been on watch list, had been turned into police, had been arrested several times. He's threatening people with a knife. And so this guy stops him, holds him for police. And now this guy's life is over because he's having to spend every dollar he ever had to stay out of jail and defend himself. In America, you can sue somebody for not liking ham sandwiches. And it'll get thrown out of court, but you'll spend $10,000 getting it thrown out of court. I mean, somebody can sue you because they don't like your shoes. And you will have to hire an attorney to fight that, to get it thrown out of court. Parents are now being labeled as terrorists for expressing their desire to have a say in their children's health and education. There are savage brawls at almost any kind of public event. Get this, last week my cousins were on a Caribbean cruise. One night in a public area, a vicious fight broke out among more than 20 people that escalated and spread. By the way, if you're curious, what ship's agenda included a dangerous free-for-all that had passengers attacking each other, the ship was Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas. How about that? Yeah, Harmony. And you can go on YouTube, Harmony of the Seas fight, and you can see it. I mean, it's just like, where do you take your kids? So violent criminals are being allowed into our country. Other violent criminals are being let out of jail without bond. The list goes on and on. The perpetrators of the criminal chaos that we're now experiencing are actually encouraged to continue because they know there's not going to be any consequences to their actions. And as a result, America has become, it has become a free-for-all society where nothing's sacred. And the message from Washington, D.C. is clear. If it helps express your anger, go for it. It don't matter how immoral or how criminal your actions may be. It's a world that has been turned on its head. And yesterday's virtues, the things that we held up to be great, they are today's sins. It's become uncool to believe in God. You got to be careful mentioning it at work. You get fired. It's stupid to believe in, much less expect a family to include a mom and a dad. You be careful saying mom and dad because some people don't have them. In many corporations and government jobs, it's become a firing offense to believe there are only two sexes. You get fired for believing that. It's wrong to want to protect your country from foreign invasion. And in some states, it's already illegal for a parent to claim sole responsibility over your own children. That's illegal. Today, we've entered a new phase of the destruction of our civilization. Being able to do whatever they please is no longer enough for many people, even those who are high up in America's power structure. I believe their anger is so deep and so all-consuming that they not only demand that their every wish be granted, they also feel compelled to give the middle finger to people with traditional values. John Fetterman calling the Senate to order in shorts and a hoodie is a middle finger to you. Hunter Biden front and center at a state dinner for Alejandro Mayorkas, insisting that him at a state dinner for the premier of India, that's a middle finger to you. Washington insisting the border is secure. That's just middle finger. Climate change officials taking your gas stoves while flying around on private jets is a middle finger. A national leader saying transgender people shape our nation's soul, or the children are not yours, they belong to our nation, which is what Hitler and Stalin said, by the way. But having a national leader say that, that's a middle finger. And finally, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but, I'm not going to say names. You know who I'm talking about. Finally, pretending that we have a head of state who is fully in charge of things is the worst middle finger of all. Because the truth is, no one even knows who's actually running the country. Do we even know? When the history of the early 21st century is written, the most significant thing about it, I believe, will be the abandonment of government accountability and the subjugation of ordinary citizens. Now, we ain't gotten to the subjugation part yet, but we're past the abandonment of government responsibility. But this has been made possible. This has all been made possible by brain-dead voters who keep putting the same self-serving, power-hungry, out-of-touch morons back in office. Winston Churchill summed it up perfectly. He said, the best arguments against he said the best argument against a democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. And I'm sure this won't be popular to say, but the empirical evidence tells us that voting doesn't work if your objective is to have a safe, orderly society when millions of people are committed to making it unsafe and disorderly. I mean, in the 1930s, the people in Germany found out the hard way the consequences of an unsafe and disorderly society, because the consequences of an unsafe and disorderly society can be dire, because when masses of people become desperate enough to preserve a civilized way of life, a dictatorship becomes a real possibility. And we got these people. You can just get in the average conversation. People say, yeah, we're headed for a civil war. Yeah, it's a civil war. I'll fight. Now, there's a couple of things I believe about that. One is, One is 49 out of 50 people who say, you'll pull my guns from my cold dead fingers over my dead body. 49 out of 50, that's not true. Because when somebody starts going door to door and gets the neighbors out and you ask this neighbor, give me your guns, and he says, I'm not going to give you guns. They shoot him in the head. They turn to you and say, you going to give me guns? They give the guns. When they start shooting people, they're going to give the guns. And the other part of that, the other part of that, I think that people don't understand Civil War. You know, we only have our own Civil War that people are vaguely familiar with. I asked a lady on camera. We got her on camera. We hadn't done anything with it. I asked her, we were just doing some man on the street stuff, and said, when was the Civil War? What were the years of the Civil War? She said, I don't know, sometime in the 1500s, wasn't it? I mean, that's how much we know about the Civil War. Now, but here's something that, you know, there have been civil wars all over the world. We've had one here. But there's something people don't understand about a civil war. Civil wars, they rarely solve anything without going to the very bottom of the worst that could happen. Civil wars are the worst kind of wars. And the reason, think about the person who's not involved. You know, a person is trying to live over here, trying to raise their kids, and there's civil war. Okay, so this person, enemy troops come up to this farm, and they're the enemy. And so they're demanding, you give me your cows, your pigs, your chickens, you give me all the food you have, all the water you have, everything you have saved. I got to feed my troops. And if you know, we're the enemy and you're giving it to us, or we're going to burn you out. And we may burn you out anyway, may kill you anyway. Okay, but here's the crazy thing. Is in a civil war, your own side comes to the house and demands all the chickens and all the cows and all the food. Aren't you a loyal patriot? Aren't you going to feed the troops? You're not going to give us everything you got? That's treason. Hang them. Civil war is the worst thing that could ever happen. Can we drag this back from the ditch? I think we can. But we better get on it. And in my view, a sense of urgency is now warranted. Here's my last deep thought of the day. If you're reading in Braille, you're a blind person reading in Braille, probably the most unsettling thing to read in Braille would be, do not touch. All right, had a good time with you today. Hope this wasn't too serious. We're not doing them serious all the time, but every now and then we just have to relax our smiles. Get a little serious. Thanks. See you next time.